Hello, welcome to SquishiVision. Today I'm going to give my thoughts on Chapter 6, The Book of Boba Fett. From a Desert Comes a Stranger. I've just managed to watch it because I had coursework and stuff to do. Also, this light from my window is giving me a nice kind of fill light on that side, and it's not deliberate because usually I film during the dark. But anyway, that's a tangent. So, once again, like last week, we have a very Boba Fett light episode, which is strange because it's a show about Boba Fett. And it does make me wonder if this show should have perhaps been an anthology. You know, maybe squished down the Boba Fett story a bit and actually made it explore a bit more, bit like the Clone Wars, but when how that was technically an anthology. Um, Maybe I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see how it ends. I mean, I think this is like the penultimate episode of this series. I can't remember actually. I should check. Which means there's one episode left, and we have like about just under a third of the series has pretty much little of Boba Fett in it. And I have to agree, two of the stronger episodes, at least the most enjoyable episodes. I don't want to be one of those naysayers. I don't want to criticize too heavily the previous show because I think it was going for something different, and it was playing around with kind of a slow burn story. But then when your quickened third act pace doesn't actually feature your protagonist, it's a bit concerning about the focus of the story, especially because very little of really last week's episode, this week's episode, has much to do with the plot line. Like, I mean, okay, the Cobb Vamp, I guess, B story that was related to Boba Fett, but everything that was the A story with Din Djarin and Luke and um, Ahsoka and Grogu, all of those were like not really relevant to this episode and continuing the story from The Mandalorian. So let's approach the Mandalorian aspect first. When season 2 ended, I was like, two things. One, it was great to see Luke. It was great to see de-aged Mark Hamill. That was fantastic. I was like, don't overdo it though. Like you managed to like pull off. It's very controversial and divisive about the whole thing about CGI actors, and that includes de-aging actors, and it's very controversial. Essentially, that versus recasting. People have very strong opinions. So I was like, we did it well. Let's just. I think at the current day and age, CGI actors and CGI characters and de-aging are fine, but you use them minimally and you don't have them kind of front and center. So I was like, this is great. We saw this coming, Luke. Let's not bring him back. Let's just keep this as a good thing. And then they brought him back for what is quite an extensive appearance in this episode. I mean, arguably, he's like a secondary protagonist in this in the context of the story of this episode. I'm not going to comment on the kind of how well the CGI was done, pretty much because I've just watched it and I'm not trying to kind of look into it. And I don't know, my eye to detail. I don't think my eye to detail isn't that good. I think it's mostly I'm happy to kind of look over. I'm not pulled out of. I'll put it this way. I am more taken out of the continuity of a show and more distracted and more. My sense of disbelief is more stretched when I have to imagine two people who are completely different appearances of the same person, and have different kind of, I guess, body language because everyone's different. Then a CGI character who's replicating body language and appearance mostly of a previous character. That even if CGI looks quite uncanny, my suspension of disbelief is less strange there. So I'm actually fine. That's not to say CGI was bad. I don't think it was. I think there was some parts where I was like, I was staring at space a lot, trying to be like, is this what I remember Mark Hamill looking like? But that's fine. And it kind of helped that it had a lot of Mark Hamill's mannerisms in it. So I don't think that's the main thing, really. So I'm fine with that. Another thing I was gonna say was I don't think we should see Grogu for a while. I think we should let the Mandalorian show, explore other parts of the Star Wars universe, other storylines that Din Djarin could follow. I think we should, maybe not see him for the entirety of season 3, maybe a cameo at the end, and then maybe visit him season 4, season 5, depending on how the show's over. And he appears in the next episode. But I think actually this kind of proves what my hope is going to be, because I think this episode actually wraps up quite neatly the Grogu storyline in terms of emotional catharsis of both characters and establishes, establishes why Din Djarin is happy to let Grogu go. Well, he wasn't. He was going to visit them, and he was persuaded to kind of give him space. And why possibly Grogu would appear in The Mandalorian. And the episode ended with the choice being presented to him about either returning to Din Djarin or staying around with a Jedi. I'll get to that in a second. But I think this kind of then means that this then gives Grogu a reason not to appear for most of season 3, if all of season 3, depending on how his choices go, because he can just be like, it gives a reason. I think and it means that I hope that's what's going to happen. I think we've been given two kind of resolutions, as it were, for the kind of plot line. So we know where Grogu is now and why he will be appearing. Grogu is now and why he's not appearing in the show, and we get given another plot hook for Mandalorian, which is redeeming himself in the eyes of his clan, deciding what he wants to do with the Darksaber, what's going to happen with Mandalore. All of that is kind of now, we have the two plot hooks, so it justifies it. A bit strange that I had to take over some other show to do that, but I guess it might help. I mean, this could easily have been the first 2 episodes of season 3 of Mandalorian, and I don't think I would have lost for it. Or you just make the Book of Boba Fett like 2 episodes shorter and make Mandalorian 2 episodes longer, which still felt like an episode of the Mandalorian. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's nice that we don't have to stick in the rigidity of, because this is something which you'd probably get with less on broadcast television, and we're able to kind of be less rigid about production expectations on shows, and we can but then from a kind of production perspective and from a marketing perspective, from a shooter perspective, it kind of seems a bit weird. Also, I'm not trying to work out where Luke's mindset is, because obviously we've seen his kind of character development, in canon, disregarding EU stuff because that doesn't count anymore. In canon, we kind of see Luke's progression out of order. We see Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi, where he's kind of immediately getting Papa set him. And then we see him right at the end of his character arc, where, and this is where people criticize The Last Jedi, and I'm like, well, you missed the point, because it's been like, what, 40 or whatever years between when we see him last, and he's just a new Jedi, and when he's become more cynical, and obviously, he's going to have developed off-screen, and you're allowed to have off-screen development, and his off-screen development makes sense from where he started, that's fine. Sorry, Last Jedi tangent there. So now we kind of jump back to kind of his midpoint, rather early to midpoint, his second act, if you will. So I'm trying to work out where his attitude towards the concept of attachment lie, because in a sense, one of the whole kind of thematic points of the original trilogy was, Jedi were like, oh, you need to give up attachment, you need to be kind of cold and do your duty, and Luke essentially wins the day by ignoring that advice and using his familial connection and his affection, the affection between him and his father to kind of win the day, essentially. And then here he's like, oh well, it's not the Jedi way, you have to choose one or the other. I feel if he didn't say it's not a Jedi way, it would have been fine, because he gives the extra reason of, well, because of Grogu's... It's established that because Grogu lives longer, he also matures longer, and therefore it takes longer for him to learn the same skills, so he has to train for longer to reach the same, where someone else might have to train, learn faster. And so by the time he finishes his training, Din Djarin would probably have passed away. So that was reason enough, but he was like, it's not a Jedi way. So I'm like, well, where is Luke's philosophy at this point? I guess he could have, I mean, I don't think it was ever explicitly taught to him that I was forbidden in Jedi kind of teaching. So maybe he's gone back and been like, oh, well, this makes a lot of sense, and this is how I should be teaching things, and maybe that's kind of where he then becomes more disillusioned later on. And then Din Djarin's pretty confident about, I can get you some troops, and then goes to a bunch of civilians who were at best reluctant to fight last time, and didn't, it was all that he would be like so confident that he would be able to get support from them, I thought. And then we jump back to kind of, okay, let's talk about the Cobb Vanth storyline, and my god, why is everyone in this show so damn cool? Well, everyone in the show, I guess, except Boba Fett, which, I mean, I don't want to say, because I don't want to be one of those naysayers who's like, Boba Fett's being kind of demasculinized, because that's nonsense. For starts, a lot of the criticisms against how Boba's being characterized are based on people's internal perceptions of the character, based on partly EU stuff and partly their imaginations, because really the character was not given much canon establishment in the original trilogy appearance, and then when he appears in the Clone Wars, he's actually kind of very much consistent with what we see now here. But even I've been kind of on the fence about how good a crime lord he is, considering that he's kind of he gets pushed over, makes a lot of mistakes, and he's crime thrown around quite a lot. But I was waiting to see where it goes. But I mean, so this isn't very much necessarily a criticism on the character, but he is surrounded by a bunch of cooler characters like Fennec Shand and Din Djarin and Cobb Vanth, and now Cad Bane, who's now in this, because Cad Bane has his I guess live action appearance. I can't tell if it's prosthetics. Well, it's either a mixture of prosthetics and CGI, or complete CGI. But damn, if it's CGI, it's really good CGI. It's very much Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean level, but like probably even better. I know Corey Burton returns to voice him. I'm not sure if he does the physical appearance, and perhaps not. So I'm curious to know who does that. I don't know if it's just a stand-in or if sorry, just a spam message from the like chat. I don't know if it's a stand-in or if it was actually an actor. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, Cobb Vanth is back in this and like just completely bleeds out cool confidence. Like he walks on like 4 members of the Pike Syndicate doing something. I wasn't quite sure if they were about to do a drop off to switch things between them, and he was like, you know, think about it, think it through, and like clearly just purely on like 2 seconds of confidence alone was able to convince 4 armed members of a gang to not instantly shoot him on sight. I mean, eventually that kind of ran out, and they're like, well, we'll probably take him, and then he manages a quick draw and outshoot 3 of them. And then it's like, you know, leave a spice as kind of a penalty, which is a bold thing to do, because, you know, I'm sure why he's competent against 4 members of Pike Syndicate. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, obviously at the end he kind of does bite off more than he can chew. Also, what is it in shows about like people just leaving bodies behind? Like the Pike Syndicate person drives off and like does absolutely nothing to like collect the bodies of his 3 fellow gang members who are probably just going to be left to decay in the burning hot sun. Is that a gang thing? Did he not particularly like them? Was he kind of concerned that if he stuck around longer? I mean, there's nothing to indicate Cobb Vanth would have done anything about him collecting the bodies. That happens a lot, though, where like people just leave bodies behind. Like I think I remember in like I think the most like burgish one is in Red Dead Redemption. At the end, you know, spoiler. Okay, hang on, I should probably spoil this because this isn't a Red Dead Redemption video. I'm gonna do a spoil for like 10 seconds and then come back. So mute this for like, you know what I'll do? Mute the video if you're watching this live. If you're not watching this live, you can always skip forward a bit. But what I'll do is I'll put my hand up, and then when I'm finishing the spoilers for Red Dead Redemption, I'll put my hand down. Me explaining the spoiler warning for this is actually longer, but it's going to take me to explain what my point is. But in Red Dead Redemption, in the end, just before John gets killed, he manages to kill a whole bunch of the army guys who have come off to kill him. And then after he gets killed, they just leave and leave the bodies behind. And I'm like, these guys are soldiers of the US military. Presumably you like care about them. Like, if nothing else, paramilitary and US military people are like very, you know, big on themselves. You should have not take the bodies with you at all. I mean, presumably they don't come back, because then they would have, like, you know, I don't know, whatever. Anyway. And then later on, Mandalorian's like, you know, kind of helping. He's like, well, it's kind of a big risk for my people. And I'm like, kind of inclined to agree with him. It is a big risk. And Mando does put up the counter argument that if, you know, if Pike Syndicate comes, it's going to be bad for them. And I guess that is also a fair point. But also, surely, like, you know, better people and needs to, like, help you out. But whatever. And then pretty much seconds after he leaves, to the point where I'm sure Cad Bane was waiting for him to leave because he kind of didn't want to fight a Mandalorian and a very quick shooter. Turns up, and it's a beautiful sequence because it's straight out of a Western, and it follows every single Western cliche, and it is beautiful for it. It's effectively a duel. It's a standoff. a bunch of dialogue exchange where it's, you know, people aren't really particularly being clear about what they're meaning, but it's clear in the subtext, and it's, you know, it's. I think this is what it was. I read about this when I was reading analysis about the final Darth Maul Obi-Wan Kenobi duel. And that a lot of the, you know, duels these kind of snuff duels are fought in the mind before they fought in real, before they actually fought, and that's where all of the tension lies, and that was clearly seen here. And it became like a three-way duel because his deputy kind of came to help, but, you know, ended up getting both himself killed. And Vance, I mean, I think the implication is Vance probably survived, but severely injured at least. Although that's probably the instigating factor for why these townsfolk can be like, well, damn these Pikes nigger guys, I guess we're gonna go to war anyway. But yeah, they did a, I mean, for a animated to live action adaptation, Cad Bane is like just spot on. Like, it's like they took him straight from the Clone Wars and just like retextured him. It's like when you watch those kind of what they're called, I forget now, but when people use those like realistic game engines to create machinimas and they reskin kind of old CGI scenes with more realistic texture from YouTube. It's like that. But it was great, and like, just the way like he came out of the sun, and it was like, oh, it was all like behind the haze and like the tenseness towards it. But when he arrived, and the way like he, you know, I mean, obviously he spoke like he expected to speak, but it was just great to see that again. And then the interaction, and then like the actual kind of immediate lead up to the shoot off, and like the consistency that Cad Bane's an extremely fast shot, and like is able to like outgun two people, even like, and it's great because we established that Cobb Vanth was a particularly fast shot anyway, but he was able to outshoot both of them like instantly, and then just like walks off, and it's just a cool scene, such a cool scene. So I think there's an episode left. I assume Boba Fett was in this episode. It was like in a minute. Not entirely sure he spoke. So it's interesting where the next episode kind of lies, because usually you shouldn't really introduce new elements in the penultimate episode. I think that's a bad idea generally, in like, to do for a show. But maybe it's not completely like that. Oh yeah, it's keeping weird. So I guess we have, like, you know, the enforcers of Boba Fett, and then like his army plus the enforcers of the Pack Syndicate and their army, and it's seeing where the clash is, and hopefully get a full out kind of, I guess, territorial war next week. But we'll have to see. Anyway, the sun's ruling my green screen, so I'm going to end it there. And I guess I will see you all next Wednesday for the finale of the Book of Boba Fett, and maybe even the series finale, or season finale. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like posthumously marketed as a limited series. Not to say I didn't enjoy it, it's bad, but I mean, I don't think it really grabbed the traction people hoped it would, and that's usually what kills off a series. It doesn't matter if it's good or not, it's if people build up an expectation and then it doesn't really fit the expectation, that usually kills off a series, but hopefully not. Anyway, guys, I'll see you next time.